Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna have a bit of fun driving the crap out of my Infiniti G37 while I talk about my 3 worst flip projects. My name is Jeremy, this is Region Automotive, and let's get to work. So I have received feedback from people close to me that my more kind of informational or list type videos are kind of dry when I'm just sitting at my kitchen table giving you guys information. I don't know why. It's not like my voice is monotonous and my personality is very mellow. So I decided to do something that we both love. Hopefully you love doing it if you watch my channel. I figured let's take the G37 for a drive while I talk about my 3 worst flip projects. Okay, so we are on the road, and I think this is one of my favorite things of this car. I always like naturally aspirated cars with no turbo, a little high RPM. Like say you're just chilling in second gear, like 4,000 RPM. And again, you just have that instant torque with a V6 or V8 engine. Shift's pretty good actually. Roads are kind of busy today. I have always been curious to try 0 to 60 on this thing, so let's do it. Let's learn together. So I have it in drive sport right now. My left foot is on the brake. I'm gonna give it a bit of gas up to 2,000. That's not too bad. I read online it claims 0 to 60 on this car is like 5.1 or 5.2 seconds. Back in manual mode. Fourth, let's go down to third. The paddle shifters actually aren't too bad on this thing for a 2009 automatic. Like that's honestly not bad. Like I was in full throttle there and I just clicked it, and yeah, like it obviously it's not like a dual clutch where, you know, like you don't feel the shift, all you hear is like a little fart or something, but like, you know, the car, like I was in full throttle and the car went forward and back a little bit to shift, but like again for 2009, like it doesn't feel like the transmission's gonna break every time I shift it. Like it actually feels pretty stout, and it gets the shift done in like a reasonable amount of time. Down to third, down to second. So yeah, I'm going at, what is that, 50 kilometers an hour, so 30 miles an hour in second gear. That manual shift honestly is not that bad. Like I said, it's quite a bit of fun driving these like kind of torquey, naturally aspirated engines with either manual transmission, manual shift. Like this is a good little driver's car. I really enjoy driving this car. All right, so let's cool her down for a minute here. I'm gonna take you for a nice little cruise on some back roads behind my city, and then I'm gonna tell you my 3 worst flips. We're gonna start from the third worst to the first worst, so like it's gonna go in order. So jumping right into it, my third, say that, geez Louise, me, my stupid words. So jumping right into it, my third worst flip, it was a 2006 Honda Civic. I ended up buying it for $2,900. Originally, actually, my plan with that car was I was going to fix it up and drive it myself. So I went through and I ordered like all the maintenance parts for it. I got like spark plugs, air filter, valve cover gasket, cabin air filter, all that stuff. And I was driving the car and I noticed I had a coolant smell coming in the cabin when I was driving the car. So foolish me, instead of doing what I do nowadays, which is actually diagnose and like find the problem, see the leak, I, you know, went with the most common cause of a coolant leak in the cabin, and I did the heater core on it. I actually did a DIY video on that on my channel, so you can check that out. That's kind of fun. But yeah, so I ended up doing the heater core. That was a lot of time. The whole dash had to come out. If I had to guess, I was probably close to 20 hours of work. And then I put everything back together and it still smells like coolant while I'm driving. Man, was I frustrated. So finally I came to my senses and I drove the car up on ramps to look for a coolant leak. Actually, I'll tell you a little bit of a side story before we talk about that. So while I was dealing with that coolant leak issue, I was also dealing with a ticking issue inside of the engine. So I thought it was a timing chain, so I did the timing chain on it as well. Before I did the heater core, the timing chain was probably, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 hours of work if I had to guess. That didn't end up fixing the ticking sound, so that was also annoying. And then I went into fixing the heater core, and that didn't fix the coolant burning smell, so that was annoying. So I had like, you know, 30, 35 hours, not 35, probably 25, 30 hours into this car and money for the timing chain and heating core, and it still was not fixed. So after I had the burning coolant smell, I came to my senses, drove the car on ramps, and yeah, coolant was just pouring out of the back of the engine. Like that car is known for the cracked block issue. Honda Civic had a class action on that. So mine had the cracked block, but you know, it was outside of the class action suit because the car is a 2006, so I couldn't get it replaced for free from Honda. And it looks like someone previously tried to JB weld over it, so I kind of got screwed on that car. And then I tried to JB weld because I was going to keep the car myself. I was going to JB weld just to see if I could band-aid fix. Spent some time JB welding it, did not fix it. So finally I came to my senses and I went to the junkyard. I got a whole new engine for that car, and then I swapped the engine. It's not easy swapping the engine on that specific car because you have to like lift it up and then lower the whole subframe engine and transmission assembly. So yeah, again, that probably took me, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 hours. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it wasn't an easy job to do, especially on the floor before I had the lift. So I ended up swapping the whole engine in that car, did the clutch on it, did the heater core, did the timing chain on the old engine, spark plugs, air filter, like I transferred all that over to the new engine. But again, I probably had like 40, 50 hours of work into this car when it could have been solved by either not buying the car or you know, me properly diagnosing the cracked engine block, and then I wouldn't have had to spend the time on the tick as well. You know, I could have got out of it for 20 hours of work versus 40 or 50 hours of work. So by the end of all that, I was just so frustrated with the car. I didn't want to look at it, see it, touch it anymore. So I ended up selling it, and my costs into the car for the engine and all of that stuff, like, you know, engine, heater core, used engine, heater core, timing chain, all the parts I threw at it, was $4,300. I ended up selling it for $5,400. I also put a clutch in it too. I ended up selling it for $5,400. So yeah, sure, I did make profit, but it was $1,100 profit. And if you count, you know, all the time and headache I had to that car, 40, 50 hours, it just was not worth it. If I could go back in time, I just would not buy that car. Okay, so second on our list, we have a 2011 Chevy Tahoe. I bought that at an auction. This was a while back in summer 2021. There wasn't any mechanical issues at the auction. It's actually a pretty clean unit, as you can see in the photo there. It's a really clean unit, very well cared for. Like, all the fluids look new, the engine ran good, transmission ran good. But the problem with that one was it had higher K. So it had 270,000 kilometers or 170,000 miles. I didn't think it was that bad because, again, me being a car guy and being able to fix cars, like, mileage doesn't scare me so much. It's more body condition that I care about, and the condition of that body was really good. So I ended up paying a little too much for it. I paid $9,700 for it, all in with auction fees. I didn't have to do much to it. I think I remember, like, one of the heater core fittings was leaking, and then the tires were pretty roached out, so I bought a set of tires for it. So I ended up putting my total cost, yeah, so I put $1,400 into it. So what's $1,400? 10,000, 11,100. So I had 11,100 into it, which is quite high for a 2011 Tahoe with close to 200,000 miles. So yeah, that just wasn't a good buy. And then obviously I was trying to make a profit, and I did see cleaner Tahoes going for pretty high money, but like I guess none of them were moving. So I think I started originally at like 15, 16 grand, trying to make a few grand. Wasn't moving, dropped down to 14 grand, still wasn't moving, dropped down to like 12. And I'm like, okay, at this point, I just want to get my money back. So I dropped down to 12, still wasn't moving. Like, you know, at 12 I was willing to take 11, just get my money back. And like, this is probably a good 2 or 3 months of me sitting on this thing, dropping the price, trying to sell it. And then finally I got so desperate, I was like, yeah, I was willing to take a loss on it. Like 10,000 was kind of my round number that I was okay taking a loss on it. So I was into it for 11.1, you know, sell it. I actually did end up selling it for 10. So yeah, I lost $1,100 on that deal. I didn't have to put a lot of work and time into it, but it just, the buy was bad. I just paid too much for it. Like even 9,700 is not bad at the auction if you want a driver, but like that's just too, like, it was just too much money to try to buy to make a profit. So that was a mistake on that Tahoe. If I could go back in time, would I buy it? Maybe, if I got it for a better price. Last one, Civic, I just would not buy, period. Tahoe, I'd go back in time and try to get a better price on it. Okay, so the worst flip I have ever done. Again, Civic, I put third because I did make money on that, but it's just more a time loss on that. Tahoe, I put second because I didn't put a lot of time into it and I lost a little bit of money. This is my worst one because I lost a lot of time and a lot of money. It was a 2013 Dodge Dart. I bought it privately online on like my classified, my local classified. It's Kijiji. I bought it off Kijiji. One morning I decided I wanted a car, so I browsed Kijiji, found that car. I think the guy was asking $4,000 for it, so I'm like, okay, that seems cheaper. It's a 2013 Dart, if I remember correctly. It actually had pretty low kilometers, like 140,000 I want to say, so this many miles. So yeah, I'm like, 4 grand, that's not bad. Like I could fix it up, probably sell it for 6 or 7 or something. The issue that was disclosed with the car, it was having transmission shifting issues. So I thought, you know, that's got to be something related to the computer, a solenoid, a broken wire, maybe a valve body, worst case scenario. So I'm like, oh, okay, like I'll get this car for 3 grand, you know, put $500 of transmission parts in it and sell it for 6. So I go look at the car. It was actually half decent. Like the seller was a nice enough guy and he wasn't trying to screw anyone over. He was upfront about the issues. Apparently he actually put a used transmission in it. That's when it started having all these issues at like some, I don't know, half shady shop, it sounds like. So I read the codes and it was just saying that the gear position wasn't learned on the transmission. So I'm like, oh, okay, great. I could, you know, again, me being foolish and naive, I'm like, oh, without doing my research, I'm like, oh, I'll get this for 3 grand, and you know, all I got to do, I have the Autel scanner, all I got to do is reprogram the transmission and I'll make 2 grand on it. So I ended up talking the guy down to 3,400, and I tried doing that and that did not work. I remember I ran like the because the transmission on that Dodge is a little different too, actually. It's a manual transmission, like it has actual like manual gears that slide on shifting forks, or shifting forks slide on rails, I guess. And it's actuated by like a hydraulic control unit. So it's kind of like, if you know, like the old Ferrari F1 transmission or like the BMW SMG transmission, it's kind of the same idea, where it's a manual transmission that's like shifted or actuated by hydraulic assembly. I don't think I even knew that at the time, to be honest. Again, I really should have done my research. So yeah, I was running the program trying to learn the control unit that shifts the gears, and it kept on stopping like halfway through the program. It just would not complete the program. So I spent a bunch of time researching online. Some guys said you just have to try to run the program enough times. So I think I ran the program one day. I remember like just sitting in the car, just kept on running it back and forth like 20 times, and it still was not programming. So if you watch my last Yukon transmission video, I talked about putting on the rose-colored glasses and trying to trying to find the issue, like everything small around the actual big issue. So that's before I built the habit of, you know, just assuming worst case scenario, and like I replace all the smaller auxiliary parts around the shifting. So it had, first I did the transmission computer. I'm like, hey, maybe the computer is crap. It's not taking the program properly. So I put a new computer in it. And then there's the smart drive unit, it's called, which is like the relay for the hydraulic pump. I don't know, some crap like that I was reading online. Did that did nothing. And then finally I actually got the whole control unit. Apparently that's a super common failure on those things. So I found a good used control unit, put that in. There's actually a DIY video on my channel as well. I'll post all the videos related to these cars that I have in the description. So I put the control unit in, tried programming it, still was doing the exact same thing. So because I replaced everything around the transmission, that kind of told me that there's an internal transmission problem. I still didn't want to believe it. Again, rose-colored glasses, wanted to think it was just something small outside of the transmission. So then I took it to the dealership and paid them to diagnose, and they tried to program it, and they had the exact same issue as me. It wasn't completing the shift learn procedure because the gears, I guess, were binding up in the middle of the procedure, and that's why I was stopping at the same time every time, is because the gears like physically weren't shifting. And then yeah, I guess to talk about the issue with the car is like, it would run kind of fine through all the gears, but as soon as you tried to give it power, it put the car in limp mode and it just totally just die out and wouldn't go anywhere. So yeah, the dealership pretty much told me that their diagnosis was the shifter bushings were binding and it needed a new control unit to be certain. And they gave me, you know, like the actually, well, yeah, I think they gave me a quote, but it was like, it was a joke. Like they knew I wasn't gonna do it. It was like 12 grand or something for to rebuild the transmission and put a new shift unit in there. So yeah, after all that, I took the car back. I took it to an auction, trying to sell it, disclosing the transmission issues. No one wanted to buy it. And then I listed it. It didn't sell at the auction, so I listed it privately online, and I was like about to run the car through the auction, no reserve, and just take a loss. Well, I took a loss regardless, take a big loss. So then I sold it online, and then I found a guy who is a mechanic for like 40 or 50 years. He wanted to buy it and fix it up for his daughter or granddaughter. So I think I ended up selling it to him for like 2,500 bucks or something. So yeah, with all that being said, I bought the car for 3,400. And then yeah, with all those parts I say in the used parts, I have in my notes I was into the car for 4,200, so that's 3,800 bucks in parts and mechanic and labor and all that stuff. And then yeah, I ended up selling it to the guy for 2,500. So that was a $1,700 loss on that thing. So yeah, I lost a decent chunk of money and a lot of time again. For that one, if I could go back in time, I just wouldn't buy it. And I didn't, like, I really wish I did my research. I didn't like that platform at all. Like, even when I drove it, like, when the transmission would engage, like, the clutch, it was just, like, it felt, like, so hollow. Like, it just, you know, this car, like I said earlier, it feels tight as a drum. That car, like, it just did not feel good when I drove that car. I just should have did my research, not made it my problem, walked away. And today I now have a rule that I don't even look at Dodge darts anymore. Just that engine, it had the 1.4 multi-air turbo with the dual clutch transmission, like manual actuated, like I just, no interest. If I see so many cheap Dodge darts online, but I just don't go past them. I'm scorned, traumatized, burnt from that one. So yeah, no more Dodge darts. All right guys, that is my video. Having a little bit of fun driving the Infiniti G37 and talking about my worst flips. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you do down in the comments below, and I can definitely make more of them. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and have a good day.